not important. These names are not important. UPSC will not ask the names. They only go into the basics of the issue, but certainly the names, places, dates, these are of very least concern to UPSC exam. Shivanjur in Gujarat, you need not even note down this. CHOGHIC, Shogik in Daman and Diu. Kasaragod, this is not Kasaragod in Kerala. This is Kasaragod, KASARKAD, and Pidubidri in Karnataka, PIDUBIDRI. Two beaches in Karnataka, one in Gujarat, one in Daman and Diu. Kappad in Kerala, Rishikonda in Andhra Pradesh, Golden Beach in Orissa, and Radhanagar Beach in Andaman Nicobar. These 8 beaches are recently declared blue flag beaches. What is this blue flag criteria? Here you need to know, listen carefully. It is a certification and an eco label, just like ISI standards. This is environment related certification, which is also an eco label regarded uniformly all over the world. It is given by an international non-profit, non-government organization called FEE, Foundation for Environmental Education. Foundation for Environmental Education, FEE, is a non-governmental organization, non-profit organization, internationally recognized organization. It is based in Denmark, Copenhagen. It started in France in 1995. Certification processes got implemented since 1987 in Europe, outside Europe from 2001. This organization examines 33 strategic criteria to award this certificate to any of the beaches. 33 criteria are categorized under 4 heads, major heads. What are they? Environmental education, bathing water quality, safety and services in the beaches available, environmental management and conservation related to water ecosystem. Under these 4 heads, many sub-criteria are there. Put together, there are 33 sub-criteria. If any beach is satisfying all the 33 or majority of the 33 sub-criteria, then blue flag is given by FEE, Foundation for Environmental Education, a non-governmental organization based in Copenhagen, Denmark. Spain has got majority, most of the green flag, blue flag beaches are there in Spain. Next comes Greece, and then France. This is in the order of more number of blue flag beaches the country has got. Right. I am moving into the next topic. Capital BEAMS, beams. BEAMS, beams. This is beach environment and aesthetic management services. This is related to beaches as recreational areas. The BEAMS is Indian Eco Label for the beaches like Blue Flag. Blue Flag is an internationally recognized eco label for a safe beach. What is the counterpart, Indian counterpart of such certification agency? BEAMS is the agency. So BEAMS is an Indian counterpart for Blue Flag certification. It's a Indian own eco label like Blue Flag. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of India awards this certificate. They have a project called ICZM, Indian Comprehensive Zonal Management Project. This ministry has got a project called ICZM. Under ICZM, BEAMS certification will be given. It is equivalent to International Blue Flag certification. What are the objectives? It is abating pollution in coastal waters, promote sustainable development of beach facilities, and conserve coastal ecosystem. These are the main objectives of ECZM under ministry. I'm moving to the third topic, debate related to Mount Everest. Mount Everest is approachable from China, from Nepal, and from Indian side. All three, the Mount Everest, they consider it as highest. It has got no highest mountain is Mount Everest. All three consider it, but they call it by different names. We call it a Mount Everest, but everybody knows by Mount Everest. But it is also called as Sagar Mata. Sagar Mata, Nepalese called it as a Sagar Mata. China approaches Mount Everest. China's Mount Everest height is 8,848 meters from MSL, mean sea level. No dispute. But what is the dispute is here? You see, China considers Yellow Sea for mean sea level. Nepal considers Bay of Bengal as mean sea level. If there is a difference level from mean sea level of Bay of Bengal and then no Yellow Sea, whether the additional difference can be added or deleted to the height which is already measured, that is the debate. That's why recently remeasurement of Mount Everest, the plans have started to remeasure it. And one more point of dispute is that it is 8,848 meters from mean sea level is up to the tip of the rock or tip of the snow. On the tip there will be ice. Measurement happened up to the ice part, few centimeters or probably few inches of snow is deposited on the peak, the mountainous rock. On the peak, let us say 5 inches of snow is deposited when they scaled the mountain. That 5 inches is to be added to the height of the mountain, or only up to the rock you have to take the height. That is one more debate. So people have started to remeasure it. It will happen, and then they will declare the height as of now. One more reason for remeasuring the height is that scientists, seismological scientists, that means who are studying the internal happenings of the earth, seismological scientists, they proposed that due to the tectonic plates in the earth, there can be a reduction in the height or there can be increase in the height of the any mountain, not only Mount Everest. Wherever this tectonic plates are moving, based on that, many things now happen inside the soil as well as above the soil. So that can be one of the reasons for difference in the height of the Mount Everest. One more happening which you can add to this is recently there was a severe earthquake in Nepal. Earthquake is caused by movement of the tectonic plates inside the earth. When they are changing their direction, automatically whatever that is above this there in that area, whatever is above the tectonic plates, whatever the plates are bearing, whatever height or no weight is bearing, there will be slight adjustment of that. So in that also, there can be a difference. People, scientists propose there can be a difference in the height of the Mount Everest. So that is the information related to Mount Everest. Mount Everest was first scaled in 1953 by Tenzing Norgay, Sherpa, and then Edmund Hillary of New Zealand. Now the current measurement of Mount Everest, they are using two technology. One is photogrammetry is one technology. Photos will be there. When you take a photo, the photo will have such a mechanism, it will measure the height also along with the photo. You are taking the photo one after the other. No, probably 100 photos are from one area to one area. You are taking a photo automatically without measuring with the tape and all that. Based on the photo, the height of that particular area or the measurement of that particular area comes up automatically. In that way, they are using a hands-free photogrammetry they are using. And one more technology they are using called geodesy, Geodesy. I also do not know what is geodesy. That is one more technique you will have to think now using when you are scaling a certain height of a mountain. Moving on to the next topic, coal gasification. Coal gasification. Union Coal Ministry recently conducted a webinar on coal gasification. Through that, they have aimed that India have to aim for 100 million tons of coal gasification by 2030. That is the target fixed by India in that webinar, that it has to reach 100 million ton gasification by 2030. What is this coal gasification? Naturally occurring coal, when you are mixing the coal with water at a high pressure, it gives out a gas called syngas, syngas. Syngas. Syngas is a mixture of carbon monoxide, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor. They use oxygen, they use air or oxygen for this gasification procedure. And when these all gases are combined together, it is called syngas. Syngas can be used in the production of electricity, chemical fertilizers, chemical processes, and then fertilizers. Hydrogen, when you are producing gasification, that means no syngas is produced from coal gasification. Hydrogen comes as a byproduct. Methane also comes as a byproduct. Or you can extract hydrogen, you can extract methane if you require it for any purposes. Hydrogen byproduct is used in ammonia preparation. Methane or natural gas from coal gasification is used as LNG, liquefied LNG, LPG, everything comes now through coal gasification. You only have to alter the procedure. Then webinar plans to establish 3 more gasification units. Already one gasification unit is there in India currently. They want to increase it to 4. That means another 3 gasification units have to be established, work to be established for reaching 100 million ton target. Dr. V.K. Saraswat, a member in the Niti Aayog committee, has been made chairman. Under his chairmanship, a committee is formed to look into these issues. That is about coal gasification. I am moving on to the next topic, cyanobacteria, CYA, cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria is nothing but a blue-green bacteria. Blue-green gas cyano is related to a pigment. Cyanobacterium is blue-green bacterium. They are single-celled bacteria available in brackish waters, marine waters, and they are microscopic. But why suddenly the importance of cyanobacteria has come? In the toxins produced by cyanobacteria has killed more than 300 elephants in Botswana in 2020. It is very significant. Any elephant is dying, that's okay. But 300 elephants dying for because of cyanobacteria toxins, particularly in a country, that's a very significant aspect when you are considering environment as a whole. So this is a serious incident. What are the reasons? The cyanobacteria, I told you, it's a single-celled bacteria. It lives in fresh water, brackish water, and marine waters. It's microscopic. It is autotrophic. That means it can produce its own food. It only needs sunlight. If sunlight is there, like chlorophyll in plant leaves, the bacterium has got cyanobacterium has got a pigment like chlorophyll. With the help of this pigment and sunlight, cyanobacterium can produce its own food and thrive. It is not dependent on any food sources. It multiplies, particularly it multiplies very heavily in nutrient-rich environment. The toxins produced from cyanobacteria are microcystin and anatoxin, ANATOXIN. Microcystin, MICRO, cystin, CYSTIN. These are the two toxic material, toxins released from cyanobacteria, which caused the elephant's death. Moving on to the next topic, Danide egg fly, Danide egg fly, DANAID EGGFLY, Danide egg fly. These are rare butterflies identified recently by Cornell University. They belong to the family called Nymphalidae, not important. These are the protected species under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. They come under not evaluated criteria of IUCN. I told you IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. They published Red Book. In the Red Book, based on the current status of animals or plants, the criteria are fixed. Under that criteria, that particular plant or animal is attached, like critically endangered, extinct, near extinct, not threatened, near evaluated, not evaluated, not vulnerable, vulnerable. These are all no different criteria. Each criteria, each segment, each category has got no certain criteria, and accordingly, the plant or animal will be named by IUCN under that particular category. Extinct and then threatened category. The threatened category comes under near extinct, and 5 criteria under threatened. 5 sub criteria are there under threatened criteria. And whenever I am coming across either an animal or a plant, when I am informing you under what criteria IUCN has put them in, I will tell you the characteristics of the segment also, that particular category also. Here, I told you this is a rare butterfly and protected under Wildlife Protection Act. IUCN has placed it not evaluated. Not evaluated means you haven't seen many of the species, many number is not identified. You never know how many species are currently in the nature. And third point is, study is not conducted on these plants or animals. Such flora and fauna is categorized under not evaluated, NE, by IUCN. Here, this Danide eggfly is coming under not evaluated category. It mimics a plain tiger butterfly. It will be just like a tiger butterfly. Tiger butterflies are very common. They are very common in the nature. In many areas they can be seen. It will be just like that. There will be minor differences, so that it can be categorized under a Danide eggfly. Next point is expansion of Kaziranga National Park. KAZI RANGA. Kaziranga National Park is in Assam. It is a well-known national park. It is declared as a national park in 1974. A tiger reserve is also there in Kaziranga National Park. It is declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985. Originally, Kaziranga National Park was 30 square kilometers area. Now the government want to increase it to 884 square kilometers area. World's, this is very important. Kaziranga, when you hear about Kaziranga means, immediately you have to remember rhinos. One-horned rhinos. Kaziranga is most famous for one-horned rhinos. World's most one-horned rhinos are available in Kaziranga National Park. It's a breeding center for elephants, wild winter buffaloes, and swamp deer. Elephant, rhino, tiger, water buffalo, these are the 4 animals which are now predominantly available in Kaziranga National Park. When you talk about a flora, the distinction of a flora in Kaziranga National Park is tall elephant grass, marshland grass, broadleaf forests. These are the 3 characteristics you can attach to Kaziranga National Park. One more significant feature, this is the one such park where in the midst of the park, National Highway 37 passes through. Both sides of National Highway is the park. This park, this highway is passing through the park. Now, generally, wherever the park is there, it's not allowed for public transport. But here, this is one exception. In Kaziranga, you will find a national highway passing through. Moving on to the next topic, Hilsa fish. Hilsa, Hilsa fish. Hilsa fish. Hilsa fish is generally the most sought after fish by the Bengalis during the Durga Puja season. Bangladesh has permitted, this year, Bangladesh has permitted export of Hilsa fish to West Bengal, particularly during the Durga Puja days. This has got a peculiar feature. It is a saltwater fish. Migrates from Bay of Bengal to freshwater of Ganges for breeding. That means not to lay eggs, spawn. It is a saltwater fish, but the egg laying, that means no breeding season, when it comes to breeding time, it will not be in saltwater. It will come to freshwater in Ganges. There the breeding happens. It lays bunch of eggs, and then now they become into again no smaller fish. After some time, no, they again go back to the sea. So this particular feature is only attributed to Hilsa fish. Hilsa fish, because Hilsa is a very known fish. That is why there can be many unknown fish species following this criteria, but Hilsa fish is one who is knowing, and then where consumption is large in case of Hilsa. So you will have to learn this peculiar feature of Hilsa fish. It is distributed in Ganges, Brahmaputra river mainstreams, and it is in West Bengal and also part of the Bangladesh. You can see this. It comes under herring species. IUCN categorized this as a threatened species. It is the state symbol of West Bengal and Tripura. National fish for Bangladesh. Threatened means threatened has got 4 criteria, 4 subcategories. Endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable, near threatened. These are the 4 criteria comes under threatened species. Critically, here I told you threatened, it can come based on the availability of the number, it can come into any subcategory. Critically endangered means original number would have been reduced by 80 to 90% reduction happened already in the last 10 years. From the existing number also, 50% would be again get extinct in next 10 years. And currently, when you calculate the number available on this earth, there should be less than 50. This comes under critically endangered category. Then endangered category. Endangered, same. There I said 80 to 90%. Here 50 to 70% would have been extinct in the last 10 years or in previous 3 generations. Another 20% would also get destroyed in the next 10 years. The available number is less than 250 on this earth. That is endangered. Vulnerable is the next category. Vulnerable, 30 to 50% would have been destroyed by now. Next 20 years, another 20% would get destroyed next 20 years. Currently, you will find less than 1,000 of a number would be less than 1,000. This comes under vulnerable. These 3 categories come under threatened species. critically endangered, endangered, vulnerable. So next, whenever I am talking about a particular IUCN categorization, you would immediately relate to the information which I have given for each category. What I am talking about, Hilsa fish. So it's a state fish of Bangladesh. Moving on to HCNG, compressed natural gas, CNG. HCNG is when hydrogen is added to compressed natural gas is HCNG. It is a clear fuel substitute. 18% hydrogen gets mixed with CNG. This can be used in place of gasoline, diesel, or LPG. It reduces emission by 70%. Fuel efficiency is increased by 5%. Engines perform very efficiently with this. Low nitrous oxide gas will be released by the engines. And then this has got a high octane high octane rating, means highly inflammable, and then residue will be very little, and the temperature generated by flames is very high. That is high octane rating. So these are all the favorable features for switching on to HCNG in place of diesel, petrol, or LNG. What are the concerns? If you go to this, what are the concerns? The 18% hydrogen, the fixing has not been standardized. Still, experiments are happening up to what percent of hydrogen is to be added to the CNG. Second is, the cost is more, efficiency is more, production cost is also more, and it needs different infrastructure to produce HCNG. These are the three concerns in production of HCNG. Moving on to the next topic, Leptarma bizu, LEPTARMA Leptarma bizu. It is again name of a species of a tree spider crab. This is a crab called tree spider crab. Leptarma bizu is a tree spider crab recently found by National Singapore University and University of Kerala. Combined identification. It's a tree spider crab from mangrove forest in Kasaragod. Their marshy area will be there. In the marshy area, mangrove forests grow. In the mangrove forest, mangrove vegetation, this Leptarma bizu, a tree spider crab, is found in Kasaragod of Kerala by combined operation of National Singapore University and Department and University of Kerala. It is Leptarma is the genus. Bizu. Bizu is the name of the scientist, head of the department in Kerala University. Bizu Kumar is the name. He is the department head of the aquatic biology in University of Kerala. The Bizu name is given after him. Leptarma bizu. Bizu name came Vijay Kumar, who identified this for the first time.
Shall we join again, sir? Its meeting is going to end.
Yeah.
Dear students, please join again.